What is up, guys? In today's video we're going to be covering both the switch break statement and the while do statement. So we're going to actually cover two different kinds of keywords that will help us with input and loops. So to get started, we're going to create an int which is going to be called number, and that's going to equal 1. So the first thing I want to cover is the while loop. So a while loop will essentially go in an infinite loop until a condition turns false. So for example, if we go ahead and type in while number is not equal to 0, we want the code inside here to be executed. So to do that, we're just going to first tell the user to enter a number, and then we need to take some input, so we will type in cin and type in number. Then we will go ahead and type in cout and type in you picked, insert the number, followed by an end line. So what this is going to do is allow us to continuously enter numbers until we enter the number 0, and then the program will exit. So let's go ahead and run this. So as you will see, it's going to allow us to enter a number. So let's go ahead and put 10. It will say we picked 10, we picked 5, we picked 20, but as soon as we enter the number 0, this condition is going to change to false, which means we can exit out of this loop. So that's the basic concept behind how a while loop works. Now let's go ahead and also insert the switch statement into this while loop so we can create an endless program that continuously takes input until the user decides to exit. So inside this loop, we're going to create a switch statement. So just type in switch, and as you can see, it needs a condition, and I'm going to enter our number. So essentially it's going to check which number gets inserted in here, and based on the number that's inserted, we're going to be able to create a response. So for example, if the user inserts the number 1, we can go ahead and output that is number 1. And it's very important we provide the break, because the break tells the program that if it finds something that matches this number, it can exit out of this switch. Because you're going to notice that if we have more cases, we don't want the program to continuously search for them because it will waste memory, and we just want it to be efficient by finding the case that fits and not searching any further. So the break just tells the program not to search any further. So for the second one, we're going to copy this part right here and paste it inside here. And we can change the statement to 2 is cool. Then we can go ahead and actually duplicate this one more time. And we're going to change the case to 3 and say 3 is a B. And you can change these cases to any numbers you want. It can be 1,000, it can be 5. And finally, what happens if the user decides to insert something that is none of these cases? We can also decide to insert a default value so that no matter what they insert, this will always be printed in case there's nothing that's matching. So here we can create the cout, and we can type in you picked a very lame number. And inside the while loop, we're also going to create another print statement, which is just going to make some more space for us between each loop. So now if we run the program, it's going to tell us enter a number. We can start with 10. You picked a very lame number. We can say 3. It will say 3 is a B. 2 is cool. That is number 1. And as soon as we type in 0, it's going to say you picked a very lame number, and it's going to exit out of the loop because we specified that as soon as this becomes 0, the code should not be executed anymore. So in a way, you could even see this as our first program in C++, a program that can read our numbers and convert it to some text. Now, there's actually another thing I want to cover that has more to do with the while loop, because right here you can see that when we created the number, we had to initialize it with the number of 1 so that this while loop could get executed. Because if we enter the number 0 here, the while loop will say, hey, this is 0, and it will skip this entire block, which will waste our time essentially, because we wrote all of this nice code and we want it to be executed at least once. But there is a way around that. And this is the do while loop. So essentially you just write do, and inside here you write the code that you want to be executed. And this code should be executed at least once. So for example, let's go ahead and type in cout, and this time we're just going to write 2 and enter a number. So it's going to be very similar to the previous program, except this time we can even start the program if the value is 0. So we're going to take an input of number, and this simple program is just going to output that you picked number end line. And all of this is going to happen while the number is not equal to 0. And you can even change this to 1 or 2 or 3 or any number you want. This condition has to be true for this loop to work. So this time we can go ahead and change this to 0, and what that's going to do is skip the first loop, but it's not going to skip our second loop because we've provided the do, which makes it do this code at least once before evaluating this part right here. So we can rerun the program now, and you're going to notice it's going to skip to our second enter a number, and this time if we write 10, it's going to continuously loop because now we changed the number to something that is not 0. And if we do 2, it's going to say you pick 2. And as soon as we click 0, it's going to say you pick 0, and it's going to exit out of our program. So this was a very simple, realistic example of where you would use a while loop. You can also use it to print out many statements. For example, if we go to while number is less than 5, we can tell the program C out number I end line, or number end line. And what's very important is that you increment the number at the end of this loop. Otherwise this loop will go in an infinite loop because this value is set to 0. So here we just have to increment the number by 1 each time this loop executes. So if we go ahead and run this program, it's going to execute it 5 times. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it will end because as soon as this becomes larger than 5, the program will say it's time to break out of it and end the program. Anyway, I believe that's all I wanted to cover in this video. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section down below and I'll do my best to look at them. Otherwise, with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video.